after. It was good for us, obviously, too, to get a win. It wasn't just good for us. I was really excited about the way that we played. I was excited about the energy level on the sidelines, and when you have some enthusiasm, and obviously the health played a major factor in it. And I think it was against a quality football team. I know they haven't won any games, but again, I look at the video and I see them against other people and how close those other games have been in terms of how competitive those other games have been. And my hat's off to Trent in terms of the game plan they had for us. But I was really, really excited about the way that we played. And I think sometimes you have to look at the complete body of work. And I think in their situation, because of some of the other games that they'd played, that body of work was pretty decent. Our Wake Forest win is looking pretty good right now, and our Baylor loss isn't looking quite as bad. And again, you start looking at the body of work rather than that immediate perspective, which can sometimes obviously be very distorted. It was great, obviously, having Kolton back, and it's not just Kolton. Again, as I mentioned before, I think that when Kolton was down, while Braley can do some of those same type of things in terms of the ability to be able to move around, you have to kind of limit those things because you've got a freshman quarterback right behind him, and so you really can't do some of those kind of things. And with two healthy quarterbacks right now, it allows us to really get back into our offense. I thought Coach Farmer did a really nice job in terms of mixing plays, and again, that it becomes an awful lot easier when you have more weapons out there and the ability to not have to protect certain players and so on. And I thought defensively we played really well. Had some opportunities, obviously, for some turnovers. Really pleased with Hunter Kissinger and the way that he's playing right now. His impact on the game, I think, was pretty dramatic with caused fumbles, the interceptions. Had numerous really fine tackles, and that first half in particular, I thought he played as well as I've seen a linebacker play since I've been here, and that's great to see because we know he's had it in him and he's getting more experiences. Our special teams, I think, did a nice job in relation to containing their players. Obviously, we gave up the onside kick, which is disappointing, although we were in position, and so it wasn't one of those things that was a surprise. We just need to make the play. But overall, I was pleased with that, and the momentum I think that's kind of carried forward is that on this short time from a preparation standpoint, on a short week, I think it brings everybody's energy levels up to a little higher state, and I'm really again pleased with where our team is at right now because we're back to focusing on 1-0. We're not looking at the entirety of the season. And I think that was a little bit of a trap early on against some very good opponents in Oklahoma and Wake Forest and Baylor. And we're focused back on one game at a time. And I think that's we're having fun, and we're having fun playing the game, and we're not worried about anything but just going out and playing and having a good time. So, questions?
It looked like, at least from a lot of people's on the sidelines perspective, that you guys were playing like you were last year. You didn't look like the same team earlier in the season. I guess what do you think was the biggest what would you attribute most to that maybe?
Yeah, we haven't changed our offense or defensive scheme from last year. I think that some of that, again, has to do with health. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with, again, just our excitement to play the next game. We played some good teams early on in the season. And we always tend to do that, and I think that sometimes, rightly or wrongly, it doesn't make any difference between social media and the world that we live in right now. Negativity can kind of spread, and when you have high expectations, negativity then can magnify. And I think that looking back on it now, which hindsight's always 20/20, I probably didn't do as good a job as what I needed to as a head coach in kind of preparing our players for some of that. And because of the expectations, I think everybody just thought, we were just going to go waltz in there and beat Oklahoma. And, it's nice, again, to have the program to that point to where, your players feel like that they have a chance to play against those type of people. But there's some reality, too, in terms of just, Oklahoma's got good players and all that type of thing. And I think that there was a little bit of we had a good win against Wake Forest again, and then the Baylor thing became a little bit of an embarrassment. And again, I think that over a period of time, you look at it and you go, well, maybe maybe not so quite as embarrassing as what it felt like maybe at that moment. And so I think that, again, we're kind of emotionally back a little bit from some early losses that I think really impacted us emotionally. I got to do a better job with our football team from an emotional standpoint, I guess, in those situations. Again, it's good that we're talking about those things now. But I think we are back. That doesn't mean that that every game is going to be, we played well. And, as I said before, the older I get, the more I care about how we play rather than sometimes when we win or not. I just want to see us play well, and that we're kind of growing up and maturing. And we played well as a whole football team. And, again, there was some energy and there was some desperation. I felt the desperation on the sideline. And, again, as I mentioned last week, desperation that's not a bad connotation in college football. It's a good connotation when you're desperate to do anything that you can to make sure that you're going to win that game. And I think we got kind of back in that mode a little bit and focused on 1-0. And I think those are really the only differences besides, obviously, our health is better, and that allows us from an offensive perspective to get back into what we want to do. And, it's unfortunate that you have an injury at quarterback, for instance, and then you've got another one that's been a little bit banged up. And as I mentioned last week, your third-team guy transfers, your fourth-team guy has an injury in the summer. And this position of depth all of a sudden, was not as deep. And, in our offense, it all revolves around the quarterback. If our quarterback's playing well, then we're going to play well. And because that's the thing that we've built this thing on, and rightfully so. We have good players there. So it's great to have those guys back and be able to kind of do – it's been very, very frustrating, because you knew what you were capable of, and yet you couldn't do all the things that you'd like to do. And it is what it is, and we're healthy, and we'll see if we stay that way and kind of move forward.
Pros and cons of a short week. Nice to be on TV, be able to kind of show your team off to a national audience, ESPNU. But with it being a short week and having shorter time to prepare, this is your second for this season, and with Western Kentucky, you're coming off maybe one of the low points of the year, not playing well against Tulane, losing Kolton, all those things. How much different do you feel like your team is preparing for this short week against Troy and sort of having that revitalization of, everything is still in front of us? There's
no question that there's, as I mentioned last week, kind of going into this game, there's a little different bounce in our step right now. And, again, I don't think that it's arrogance or cockiness. I think it's just I'm excited to play and excited to be who we are. And, we've got just a tremendously quality football team coming up in Troy, a team that is offensively is very, very explosive, a senior quarterback, two senior quarterbacks that are both good players, and a tremendous respect for what Larry's done down there, and very multiple on defense. And so we've got a huge, huge challenge. And, again, answering your question, on a short week, that even makes it more difficult. This is a program that obviously is and to Larry's credit, has just, the growth of that program and kind of where they came from to where they have been is just, it's phenomenal. And a lot of that goes obviously to the players, but Larry Blakeney can take a lot of credit for this, and it's great. I know Larry personally, and he's not just a great coach; he's a great person, and to see his name on that field, that's a neat thing. I'm excited for him, but on a short week, it makes it doubly hard because you're playing against an outstanding football team that has played some extremely close games here recently and found ways to win. And that's another mark of a really good football team, is when you're in close games, you find ways to win. And they've done that, and they've done it in different fashions in their ball games. The offense has certainly been very, very productive, but they had a huge defensive stop this last week. And against a very good Western Kentucky team, and obviously we have some familiarity with them. So it's difficult. The short weeks are difficult, but it's short for them too, And so we both have those same kind of issues. And we came out of the game relatively healthy, other than Tavares May. And I hate to say this now because I know my credibility is in question. I just repeat kind of what the doctors tell me. Because you've heard this from me before in terms of guy being out for the rest of the season. But it's pretty apparent that that's probably going to be the case with Tavares, which we hate any player to get injured, but certainly a guy in his senior year that really was coming off maybe one of his better ball games this season, partly because of having a healthy quarterback and partly because of his preparedness going into the ball game. But I think we're both relatively healthy. It looked like they came out of their game pretty healthy also, and so it should be just an outstanding game. I'm really, really excited about it. I know they are too, and I think our players are. So we'll take the bus ride over and see what happens on Halloween.
But do you see a difference in the team, like energy level? I mean, I know you talked about the energy being different on Saturday, but just with the short week.
Yes.
And what?
Yeah, I can, without reservation, say that we're emotionally back right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, our work, again, all that negativity from early in the season, I think, is gone now, and now it's all about you feel the optimism and you feel the energy and you feel all those other kinds of things, and that's a big part of this game.
It looks like they're having some issues on defense. What are some of the areas that they're having problems with?
Again, they've played against some good offensive football teams. I think, you can look at ours and say, well, we gave up over 71 points against Baylor. That's going to skew the stats, and unfortunately for a lot of us that have to play in some of those against some of those kind of programs, is your statistics get very much skewed by who you play. I don't know that and 10 years ago, I don't think it made that big a difference. I think it makes a huge difference right now. And you start comparing stats within our conference even, and the difference between who some people in our conference play and who we play. There's huge differences, and those statistics can get skewed pretty significantly. I think they're, they've had some turnovers. That's given up. Troy's had some turnovers. That's created some short fields for some people, and that's given up some points. And I think they're continuing to get better as a defensive group, and that was obviously evident this last week against a very explosive Western Kentucky team. They've been very opportunistic, I think, here recently from a defensive perspective. But again, in terms of kind of looking at stats and reading stats, I mean, you take that 70 points off from our Baylor game, and our defense looks pretty stout. And so I don't get much into the statistics. I get an awful lot more. And don't get me wrong. Now I'm a statistical guy. I mean, that's where my college degree's in. But I also understand that there's statistics can become skewed, and I believe kind of what I see on video.
Being a former quarterback, how much do you enjoy an opportunity to watch Robinson versus Browning and that whole dynamic?
Yeah.
Guys that have been around the block.
Isn't that fun? Yeah, I don't know that I could say much about me being a quarterback, but having coached quarterbacks for a long time and been around a lot of good ones. There's so much stress on that position now. Whenever I was playing, there wasn't as much stress. We were an option team, so you had to make decisions and all that. But it was different, and there's so much stress on the quarterback right now. And so when you watch really, really quality quarterbacks play, and especially when you appreciate the mental aspect of the game now in relation to what it was 10 years ago even, you look at two really phenomenal players, and that's really exciting to watch that. I don't want to make too much out of a quarterback duel because it's not that. But I know Kolton's going to play well. I know Corey's going to play well because that's what good players do, and they're both very good players.
Looking at the losses that they've had minus Mississippi State, it looks like, they've scored more than 30 points in those other two losses. It looks like a lot of these games end up being shootouts. Do you anticipate the same type of thing?
Oh, I quit doing that a long time ago, Tabby. I used to get all into the comparative scores and all that kind of thing, and I just don't think it holds water anymore. While you're playing against, teams are so different right now. The matchups are so different. I've seen great defenses just get, case in point, Alabama, right? Alabama plays great against everybody unless they got a quarterback that can run around, right? And that's given them a lot of problem. And so, you say, well, and Alabama's got a great defensive football team. Don't get me wrong. But I know there's been a lot, that's been written about this and talked about. And so consequently, I don't think that you can really, again, look at teams and say, okay, why did they score points on blank you. Maybe the matchup wasn't good. Maybe that team isn't good on defense. Maybe they got a good name, but they're a great offensive football team. And so, again, I don't really look so much at that. I look at I watch the video and I watch players, and they've got very good athletes over there at Troy, as you would expect, and they're very, very well coached, as you would expect. And so we've got our work cut out for us.
Okay, do you think you have to score more than 30 points? Because it seems like when you do score, like this past week, whenever you were able to put up some big numbers.
I think anytime that you score 30 points on either side of the football, then you've got a great chance to win.
Okay.
So, but I just want to win again, and we're going to do whatever it takes to win. And if that means that we've got to set on the ball offensively and keep their offense off the field and score real slowly, I'm fine with that. If we need to run the ball 75 times, I'm fine with that. If we need to throw it 75, I'm fine with that. I don't really care. I think that obviously the ultimate goal is to win, and there's multiple ways to try to win. Texas State, we knew that from an offensive perspective they were struggling a little bit. We felt really good about where our defense was. We knew our offense was not as effective at that point in time, and so we played a major field position game. And that's hard for me to do because I hate that. A very conservative game plan. Just don't turn the ball over. If we don't turn the ball over, we got a great chance to win. And quite honestly, the 2 turnovers is probably what almost cost us the win, right? It's because we got a little bit aggressive, and the fact of the matter was that we had the 2 turnovers, and that changed the game. And so you can win a lot of different ways, and we want to try to win the surest way. And so we've got, I think, a great game plan. I'm sure they feel the same way. And then, as Evander Holyfield once said, everybody's got a great game plan until you get hit the first time, right? And then you start making adjustments. And that's what every team's got to do in college football right now is they got to get in and they got to be able to make adjustments, and we'll kind of see how the game plays out from there.
As long as somebody's ear gets bitten.
We're not, no ear bites. That's not part of Evander's quote. So.
Well,
You were too young to even remember that.
I do actually remember that one.
Okay.
But going into this, I know how much you hate talking about history and looking at the previous games, but it seems like this group, and I remember Coach Blakey saying it at preseason media days, like he'll be so glad when Colt graduates because every year that he's faced him, I think y'all have won. This whole senior group has beaten him in their freshman year, your first year, and then 2 years ago, whenever y'all went there.
Right.
But it seems like every time y'all play them, it seems like there's some kind of surge of confidence that's happened. Are you excited that it's coming up at this time of the year with what the defense has done the last 2 games with Texas State and then last week against Georgia State, that they probably have their utmost confidence right now going up against a team that leads a lot of the offensive categories?
I'll be glad when Corey Robinson's graduated too. But no, you're correct in your initial statement. I don't put any stock in that at all. I mean, this is this year's team. That was years ago's team. His team, our team, and we're different play. I'm a really big now guy, as you know. And I talk about the now. What are you going to do now? And because now is all that matters, and past history doesn't mean anything. And it's all about what are you going to do right now. And so I don't put any stock in that at all. I've been in the game too long to put any stock in those kind of things. We got different teams, and so you're right. None.
Yeah. Okay, so the second part of that question, because I know that's why you're going to answer the first part.
Okay.
The defensive confidence.
So I gave you the segue.
You did.
Okay, here we go.
So being at this point in the year where your defense is coming off 2 great games and having maybe their highest point of confidence going up against, are you glad with where this game has fallen and going up against maybe the top, in most categories and offensively, with your defense having most confidence?
I would agree with that statement also, in the sense that I think we're playing. We've stayed relatively healthy on defense, and that's been hugely beneficial. We've played a lot of guys on defense, and so I think we're a little fresher on defense because of that right now. We've got more guys that we think we can throw out there. We've got a huge challenge offensively this week, and from their offense, I should say. And so now it's time, obviously, for the defense to really rise up because they're very much going to be challenged by a tremendous Troy offense. And so, but are we playing well right now in defense, we are. And, this is a junior-dominated defense. There's only 2 seniors, in this group out there, I think. And so consequently, because of that, we've continued to get better through the course of the season also. And obviously, whenever you've had some good results as we've had here recently defensively, that does obviously bode well from a confidence standpoint.
Coach, you talk about the defense. Of course, the secondary, we took the test against Eric Thomas. He's already faced some good wide receivers. How is he comparable?
I'll be glad when he graduates too, because some of these names, they just they resonate over such a long frame of time that it's just like, wow. Matter of fact, I think their defensive tackle, and I'll answer your question here momentarily, but Demarius Gillespie, really good player, number 94. He played with Ben Reisenhoover at Jenks High School. Ben was a freshman whenever he was a senior. And so he's been around a long, long time. But no, Eric is a great talent, great ball skills, can catch it and go the distance, but will get physical when he needs to get physical. Great with the ball in his hand in relation to yards after the catch. I'm talking about not just in speed. I'm talking about him making people miss. And obviously he's got tremendous rapport, chemistry with the 2 quarterbacks, and one of the outstanding players in our conference.
What are the challenges of facing an offense? It's a little bit of an unusual offense, that air raid style, spread them wide offense that you're going to face. What are the challenges of facing an offense like that, especially one that seems to convert 3rd downs and 4th downs as well as they do as well?
But there's huge challenges because they put you in space and they force you to make plays. And I think that's the real challenge on the defensive side is you're going to be in space and you got to make a play. And because just the nature of what they do. Now, I think, quite honestly, because our offenses have paralleled each other over a period of time, this is very similar to what we were start of the season and all of last year, and kind of what we're currently doing is this ability to be able to spread people out and put our players in space and allow the quarterback to just kind of work things. I think there's a little bit more familiarity than, for instance, maybe playing Texas State's offense, which was this heavy pistol. Even this last week in Georgia State, which they would get up underneath the center, they had little screen passes, they did some of those other kinds of things. This one's very much more comparable to our offense, and so I think both defenses benefit from having played against their own offenses.
With what's happened with Kolton and the whole comeback, have you ever been around something like that, or you've had a player, especially an impact player like Kolton, say that you're done and your career is pretty much over, and then a month later, here he is, like? Yeah,
31 years of doing this, I can actually say that has never happened before. Where and all indications were that he was out for the rest of the season. I hope you guys can appreciate this because you've been around me long enough. I'm not covering things up or hiding things under rocks or any of those other kinds of things. And I hate the fact that my credibility kind of comes in question sometimes on things like this. And obviously I know that I'm not a big social media magnet. Matter of fact, I can't stand it. But the reality is that I know that Kolton did tweet some things out after that ball game also in relation to after he got hurt and that following week in terms of, wishing the team well and him being supportive, thinking he was out for the season too. And so, I guess great job by Kolton, great job by our training staff in taking a season-long injury and being able to come back a few weeks later. But I actually think, and I think Kolton will be the first to tell you that he actually feels better now than he's felt before even the Oklahoma game, because obviously the initial injury happened in preseason camp at that open scrimmage that we had, for everybody. And might be the last open scrimmage that we have, because then I don't have to do those kind of things in terms of putting on a show. But I think he feels better, and obviously I think he proved that this last Saturday. And quite honestly, I needed to see kind of where he was at on some things, as I mentioned last week in practice. I need to see him do it in the game, and so we challenged him a few times. Obviously, contact is not going to be a problem. It's not a contact type of injury, and so you're not worried so much about the contact. You're worried more about him opening up and running, and he showed that he could do that effectively, and I knew that kind of going in based off of the Thursday practice prior, which was a a much more challenging day for him in relation to opening up. And so, nowadays when you have a mobile quarterback, it changes everything from a defensive structure standpoint. I was even talking with Trent after the ball game, and he was really disappointed that Kolton came back. And he says, we were just playing better, and all of a sudden you get this quarterback back. But when you've got a quarterback that will move around and can hurt you along those lines, it really changes the defensive scheme, because now you have to account for him. And that's one of the things that I mentioned after the Oklahoma game, after they recognized the injury. They didn't have to account for him, so it changed their defensive scheme. And, this is something that we always want to continue with, is having these quarterbacks have the ability to be able to move around, and not just the rest of this season, but for ever and ever. Amen. There's a song, right? Yeah, okay, I didn't know if that's a little older song, then maybe you might remember that too. So.
Would you like to give us a sample to help?
Little Randy Travis.
Yeah. Might not be the best person.
Look, Hunter's back there. I didn't even know he was back there, and he's going. Hunter's.
There you go. Arkansas boy.
Yeah, he's got a little country in him. We might be able to coax him into singing that for us when he gets up here.
He was so much more country before he got here. Now he's got the long hair.
Yeah, he's got that little bunny tail working today too, doesn't he? Back there in the back.
Any other questions for Coach Berry?
Can we just continue this? This is fun. This is my time to go in the office.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
You told me to take a while to take a nap.
I didn't sleep enough.
I think your hair is better than ever. You must be so happy.
Senior quarterback Kolton Browning. Floor's open for questions.
Chill on the senior part.
Colton, did you ever think this would happen? You'd be sitting up there and looking at our faces again?
There for a while, no, I didn't. But getting in the training room, getting some rehab done. The training staff did a great job with me, helped me out, get me to where I needed to be, and it feels good to be back out there, running around playing again.
What was that? Describe that feeling. What that was like Saturday to be back on that field.
It was good. The whole, just the energy that was out there with the team. Everybody was ready to come out and play and kind of prove that, we were the same team that everybody has thought we were being. And we haven't necessarily showed who we are the whole season. We haven't really been able to, explode on offense, to go out there and put up, 38 points, and the defense play the way they did. It was really good to get back out there with my teammates and just kind of feel the energy again and get back and put some points on the board and win a ball game.
How would you grade out the performance?
I don't know. I just know that we got a W. I don't really look into grading myself or anything like that. Some players on my receivers made some great plays, and the running backs definitely ran the ball well. Big guys up front blocked. It was just a good team game. Got a W, and going into this week with a short week and prepare for Troy and get ready for this game.
Have you gotten a lot of questions about what kind of magic dust did you sprinkle on yourself or anything? Because everybody is just like glad to have you back, but it's like, what did you do?
I didn't really do anything. Just kind of having a few weeks off, especially that bye week, that came in big for me. Being able to rest it and just kind of run around and see where I'm at and really feel my way into being fully healthy and running around and cutting without any pain and also stuff like that. But, like I said, we did a great job of preparing me, getting my legs stronger, getting where I needed to be, and, it's nice to be full speed without any kind of nagging injury that I had the first part of the season.
I know you love to play any Saturday or Thursday for that matter, but do you enjoy going up against a quarterback who a lot of people make comparisons and, from to being a 4-year starter to being a gunslinger, that kind of thing, but does it kind of put a little bit extra emphasis and fun on the fact that, don't want to make it a quarterback duel, but a lot of people kind of want to point at that?
Everybody looks at it like that, but, Corey's a great player. He's shown that over the, 4 years he's been there starting and winning some ball games, but, we just want to go on there and make sure that we execute our game plan and keep playing the way we played this last week and go in there and, try to come out with a victory. It's a TV game. It's going to be exciting. It's on Halloween. Of course, everybody's looking forward to it. So we're just ready to get out there and play.
Thinking about that stupid quote that Blakeney called him about saying that he's going to pop out at somebody like Halloween.
You?
Any other questions for Kolton? Thank you very much.
How too easy today.
It was. You said that down. I want to know.
Yeah, it's like a 6 of so. I know I gained a few pounds, but I know.
Took my joke.
All right, last up, sophomore linebacker Hunter Kissinger. Floor is open for questions.
Kind of the same question I asked Coach Berry. You had talked Saturday night about the confidence the defense is getting. Just how perfect, I guess, maybe not perfect, but the timing of playing Troy, a team that has led in a lot of offensive categories this year. Just the timing of it, because y'all have gotten some confidence these last two games.
I think the timing can never be wrong, because at any time that you gain confidence, it's a great thing going into any game. And it just happens to be Troy that's leading in a lot of offensive numbers, which is great. I mean, the timing, like you said, really couldn't be any better due to the fact that they're really good on offense, which is a challenge for us, but I think we're ready for it, and we've kind of set a standard as a defense. And Coach Rev's really been honest about it, and playing 60 minutes, because early in the season we had some quarters we played really well, we were just spotty. And now that we're playing all 60 minutes with great football, it's really a good thing going into Troy.
Has that been the biggest difference last 2 weeks, is just the consistent play?
I think so. The consistency along with making plays. Sometimes whenever you don't do things right but you make plays, it's almost like you never did anything wrong, because it just comes over that. And but I think we've been playing really well. I mean, we're not playing perfect, but we're playing really well, and making plays is huge whenever you get turnovers. And I mean, two weeks ago we had 2 defensive touchdowns. That's huge. And I think that's the biggest thing from early on in the season. We're making a lot more plays along with consistency.
What would you attribute to that?
I think that the switch just turned on. I really do. I think that everybody just decided, hey, we got a little desperate, like Coach Berry was saying. We got to win some games, and that's really what it boiled down to. Is we decided, hey, we got to win some games, and with Kolton out, defense has got to put up some stops. And so I think that Texas State, it was really good for us, because we decided that it was going to be on us to win the games. And I mean, thank God that the offense at Texas State made plays whenever they needed to, and defense played really well. And so I think that's what it really boiled down to, is we have to make plays to win regardless of the offense. And I think last year, the offense scored a lot of points. And this year, it wasn't quite as much points, so we had to look into ourselves and reflect on what we were doing and get better.
Do you see a lot of similarities with Kolton and Corey Robinson, besides their lefty and righty thing? But how much better does it help you prepare, because you go against a guy like Kolton for the last however many years in practice?
It definitely helps you prepare, because whenever you're playing against good quarterbacks, they make good decisions. And that's something that you need to be ready for, and you got to put pressure on them and things like that, kind of get in their head. And it's really been a good thing, because Kolton makes a lot of great decisions in practice when we go against them, so it kind of gets you ready for, hey, you got to make a play on a great ball, and because there not always going to be a lot of bad balls just thrown right to you, so you got to make the plays instead of let them come, expecting them to come towards you. So, but I think it's definitely a good thing practicing against Kolton.
What are the differences that you've seen, like with short week? Last time you had a short week going against Western Kentucky, it was kind of a low point for losing to Tulane, and losing Kolton for that matter, for what we thought was going to be the season. And maybe there was some down, but now that you've gotten to the point where you had 2 really strong games and going into a short week with all your goals out in front of you, do you see a lot more energy and positiveness, just kind of getting out there and wanting to get everything done because of the short week?
Well, when you win 2 games back-to-back, that automatically puts a lot of energy on it, because you got the momentum and you're ready to play. You're like, hey, I want to get another win, and which is a great feeling. And I think that's more importantly the difference, because you just got 2 wins on your belt and you're ready to win another one. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a short week or a longer week. You're just ready to play again.